The last date for filing individual income tax returns or ITR is 31st of July. Starting today, we want to answer all your queries, questions. As the last date approach every year, individuals are looking for an extension. We don't know whether that's going to happen or not. In this segment, we want to tell you all that you need to know about ITRs. Joining us is S Sriram, who's a partner at Lakshmikumaran and Sridharan Attorneys. Sriram, thanks very much for taking time out. The first question that I have in mind, and perhaps in minds of many people who do not have a positive income, should they be filing ITR? Should everybody be filing ITRs, or only those who are earning a substantial sum of money or taking away some income home?
Any person who has a taxable income has to file an ITR. When I mean taxable income, there are slab rates that are prescribed for individuals. So anyone who has the income which is higher than the smallest slab will have to file a tax return. That's the primary category. The second and the other usual category is that when there is a businessman who is not a salaried employee but a businessman, but has losses in his business which he wants to carry forward and set off in the future period, he is also obligated to file his tax returns. These are the two primary categories of individuals who are required to file their tax returns.
All right. And what happens if I don't file it within the due date, which is 31st of July? What are the avenues for a person who's not filing it within the due date?
The consequences of not filing are, I would say, threefold. First, if there is a tax liability that arises out of the income that you have earned, you have to compensate the government in the form of an interest for the money that you had withheld. The second is that if there was a willful default in filing your tax return within the due date, there are penal consequences that might arise. And the third and most important, according to me, is that your own self-conscience. The tax that you pay is for the betterment of the country. You have an obligation as a citizen of this country to report to the government the monies that you have earned. That's the foremost requirement for which you have to file your tax return. The guilt feeling is the most important consequence of not filing your tax return on the due date. What if you don't file within the due date for whatever reasons it can be? You get a 6 months extended period of time by which you can file your tax return, which we generally refer to as a belated return. But if you skip the due date and file it within the belated return period, there are some consequences apart from the interest and penal liabilities. First is that the deductions that you are ordinarily entitled from your taxable income, say for example, purchase of a life insurance policy, etc., might not be available if you don't file your tax return within the due dates. Second, if you have a loss that you want to set off against any of your income, for example, you purchased a house in which you are staying, on which you have borrowed money and paid interest, the interest cost is allowed as a deduction against your salary income. That loss will not be available to be set off if you don't file your return within the 31st of July. And I don't see the due date extending this year. I don't see the government extending the due date this year. The database has been, the system for filing the return has been in place for quite some time. The forms have been released much in advance. The government has been repeatedly advertising taxpayers to file their return. I see no reason for the government to extend the due date for filing the return this year.
Okay. And perhaps one of the most basic questions for a person who's just entered workforce, who's just started earning, how do you really go about filing your income tax returns? What is the procedure like? What is the process like?
See, almost every one of us is tech savvy today. They carry a smartphone, have access to internet. Simple, just go into the website of the income tax department. They have provided detailed guidelines as to how you can, if you are just stepped into the job market and are having a minimum income and which is only sourced from your salary, you need not even approach a professional to file your tax returns. The income tax department has developed a system by which they have provided pre-filled forms. They have collected information from your employer. They have collected information from your bank about your income that you have earned. Prepared a pre-filled form which is stored in your login ID. You just have to verify these details, add any other details that you want to, any additional claims that you want to make, and then just press a button to file your return. It's almost like booking an Uber on your app. It has become that simple today.
Okay. it's as almost simple as booking an Uber or an Ola, but unfortunately financial knowledge information seems to percolate way slower in this country as opposed to a young person taking on to a new app or booking a cab. I hope it becomes as easy as that. I hope the financial information is taught in schools, it's taught in colleges, but that hasn't happened so far. So we are bringing you all that you need to know about filing your income tax returns. You can write to us, you can comment at the bottom of this video. We will put up those questions to experts like Mr. Sriram and get all your questions regarding income tax answered on this show. But with that, it's a wrap. Thanks very much for watching.